You have seen them. They exist on every platform. They have accounts. They scroll. They watch. They know everything that is happening in everyone else's life, but their own profile, almost empty. No selfies, no birthday celebrations, no life updates, no proof that they were anywhere, with anyone, doing anything. And in a world that has turned visibility into a currency, these people look almost suspicious. Why would someone choose to be invisible when attention is free? Psychology has been studying this exact question, and the answer is not what most people assume. It is not shyness. It is not insecurity. And it is definitely not that nothing interesting is happening in their lives. It is something far more revealing than any photo they could ever post. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you might understand yourself or someone you know in a way you never quite could before. Let's start with what is actually happening in the brain of someone who never posts. Most people treat social media the way they treat mirrors. They post something, they wait, and they use the response to understand how they are being seen. Likes and comments function like a reflection, confirming identity, validating worth, calibrating self-image. But here is what psychologists have found about people who do not do this. Research on what is called self-concept clarity, the degree to which a person has a stable, internally consistent sense of who they are, shows that people who need less external reflection already have a clearer internal one. They are not avoiding the mirror because they are afraid of what they will see. They are avoiding it because they already know. Jennifer Campbell's research at the University of British Columbia found that people with high self-concept clarity rely on internal standards rather than external feedback to evaluate themselves. They do not post because they do not need the response to feel real. That is not withdrawal. That is groundedness. But there is a second layer worth understanding. And this one is about what posting actually costs. Every time someone shares something online, they are doing something most people do not consciously notice. They are handing a piece of their private experience to a public audience and waiting to see what that audience does with it. Psychologists call this external validation seeking. And research consistently shows it is linked to fragile self-esteem. Not because the person is weak, but because their sense of self has become dependent on something outside of themselves. The person who never posts has, consciously or not, removed themselves from that cycle. They have kept their experiences private, and in doing so, they have kept them whole. Here is something worth sitting with. When you share a moment online before you have fully lived it, the moment changes. The experience becomes partially about how it will look. The meal, the trip, the sunset, all slightly adjusted, slightly performed, slightly less yours. People who never post live their moments completely. Nothing is filtered before it is felt. And psychology has a name for this too. Researchers call it experiential presence, the degree to which a person is fully inhabiting their own life rather than narrating it for others. Now here is where it becomes important to be honest, because there are two very different versions of someone who never posts, and they look identical from the outside. The first is someone who is genuinely secure. Their identity is internally anchored. They do not need visibility to feel real. Their life feels full without an audience. This person is not avoiding anything. They are simply living without the performance. The second is someone whose absence from social media comes from a different place. Maybe they were told somewhere along the way that taking up space was not safe, that being seen invited judgment, that staying invisible was the only way to stay protected. This person is not absent from social media because they are confident. They are absent because some part of them believes their life is not worth showing. And those two versions of the same behavior have completely different roots. Ask yourself honestly, if you are someone who never posts, does the idea of sharing something feel unnecessary, or does it feel risky? Because one is freedom. The other is a wound that has learned to look like privacy. Here is what I want you to know, regardless of which version you recognize. The instinct to keep your life private is not wrong. In a world that profits from attention, choosing not to give yours away freely is one of the quietest and most powerful things a person can do. The person who never posts is not missing from social media because their life is empty. They are missing because their life is full, and they have decided somewhere in the depth of who they are that fullness does not require an audience. They do not need to be seen to know they exist. And in a world that has forgotten how to be anywhere without proving it, that might be the most extraordinary kind of confidence there is. If this found you today and something in it felt true, tell me in the comments one word for what you keep private that you would never post about. Just one word. That is enough. And if you want more psychology that helps you understand the quiet, the private, and the deeply human, subscribe to Psychology Unpacked. Understanding yourself starts here.